Alright, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to have this note section. In this note section, I want you to copy down what I copy down on here. Any math that I do, any arithmetic, any number writing that I do, you can do on a separate sheet of paper. Okay, anything that you write separate from this, I do want you to upload a picture of it to Google Classroom. You can use your Chromebook, you can use your phone, an iPad, however you need to do that, but I do want to see the work that you do with it. So, Pythagorean theorem is what we're going to talk about first. Okay, this can only be used for right triangles. Now, going back to our talk of angles and all of that, a right triangle, remember, is a triangle with 190-degree angle. So for instance, this triangle up here is a right triangle. Okay, we can see that in right here is that 90-degree angle. Remember they talk about with that box. Okay, we cannot assume that any triangle is a 90-degree or right triangle just because it looks like it. We've got to see this box right here or it be proven some other way. So there are three parts to a right triangle. Two of them are the legs and the hypotenuse. The legs come off of the 90-degree angle. Okay, so we see that right here, the 90-degree angle here, the legs are what come off of that. Okay, then we have what we call the hypotenuse. Okay, and the hypotenuse is across from the right angle. Okay, so the hypotenuse is that comes across from the right angle, and the legs are the two parts coming out from the 90-degree angle or the right angle. Okay, the hypotenuse is also going to be your longest side. Okay, so when we're looking at this, the theorem that Pythagoras came up with was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so a, b, and c, we're like, what? I don't see those anywhere. Okay, but when we look at this right triangle, there's going to be three parts. We're going to call one leg A, one leg B. The hypotenuse will always be C. Now, with this, either A or B can be interchanged. It doesn't matter. Okay? So A or B, B or A, it doesn't matter which one is which and which goes where. Okay? So the other way that I also look at this is to just say leg squared plus leg squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. Okay? So this can only be used for those right triangles. Now, going back to our examples, okay, I've got 3 and 4 are my legs. So now I've got right here 3 and 4 are my legs, and I know that because they're right next to the right angle. And I'm looking to figure out what the hypotenuse is. Okay, so the way that I do this is I take 4 squared plus 3 squared equals c squared, because c is the length of that side, or x, or whatever that is. Okay, now I just follow my steps. 4 squared is 16, plus 3 squared is 9, still equals c squared. 16 plus 9 is 25, is equal to c squared. Now, I've got to do something to get c by itself. That tells me the area of that square on c, but it doesn't fully tell me what c is. So the opposite of a square is a square root. So to get that by itself, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So, as we should remember, the square root of 25 is 5. So 5 is equal to c. So that means this side is 5. Okay? Example 2. This looks the same, as in I've got both of these on these legs. Both of these legs right here. Just the only thing is that it was turned another way, right? It was rotated a different way, but still the same concept. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm looking for C, looking for that hypotenuse. I'm going to take 12 squared plus 9 squared and set that equal to C squared. 12 squared is 144 plus 9 squared. 9 squared is 81, and that's equal to C squared. Then I can add those up in my calculator, and that's going to give me 225 is equal to C squared. Again, the opposite of squaring something is taking the square root, so I'm going to take the square root of both sides. C is equal to 15. So that's telling me that the hypotenuse of this right triangle is 15, whatever unit. Okay, last example on this page. I've got 7, 13. Okay, those are both my legs, and I'm looking for my hypotenuse again. So, again, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, plugging in my numbers. So I've got 7 squared plus 13 squared is equal to c squared. Now, I'm okay with you using the calculator to figure those out. Does that mean you don't show your work? No. The calculator is just going to do the math for you, but you still have to show what you put in the calculator. Okay, so 7 squared gives me 49. Plus 13 squared gives me 169. And that is going to give me c squared. Okay, then I take 49 plus 169. And that's 218 is equal to c squared. Now, 218 is not on our list of perfect squares, so it's going to give me some sort of decimal, and that's fine. But, again, what's the opposite of a square? A square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Now, as far as the calculator goes, you can do this on a handheld calculator. You can do this on the Desmos calculator. Okay. If you do this on the Desmos calculator, one shortcut that you can use is if you type SQRT parentheses, it'll automatically give you that radical symbol. Okay, so I'm going to take the square root of 218, and let's keep it at 2 decimal places right now. Well, no, let's just keep it at 1. Okay, and that means that C is approximately 14.8. So, looking at these examples, find the length of the third side of the triangle. Okay. Again, these are all facing the same way, so these are all legs. Now, if I'm going to look at this, let's say, I'm just going to say, this is A, this is B, and I'm looking for C. Again, all we're doing with this is just finding the hypotenuse, finding that C side. Okay, now these numbers are a little bigger, but that's fine if we're using our calculator. Okay, so I've got A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Again, now A is 24, so I'm going to say 24 squared plus 32 squared is equal to C squared. Okay, again, I knew these were my legs right here and right here because they come right off of the 90-degree angle. Remember, the one across from it is my hypotenuse. So I've got 24 squared, it's 576, plus 32 squared, which is 1024, is equal to c squared. Add those up. That gives me 1600 is equal to c squared. Taking the square root of both sides, the square root of 1600 is 40. So c is equal to 40. Okay, go ahead and set this one up. So I've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I've got a, b. Again, doesn't matter which one's a and which one's b as long as they're both the legs. Okay? So, for instance, let me even, for sake of example, let me switch them up. Let's say this is b and this is a. Great. So I'm going to say 55 squared plus 48 squared is equal to c squared. Okay? 55 squared is 3025 plus 48 squared is 2304, and that's equal to c squared. So adding those two together, that gives me 5,329 is equal to c squared. The opposite of a square is a square root. Taking the square root, c is equal to 73. All right, so looking at this one, I'm not going to bore you with all these examples. This is going to be our last example. Okay, I got 39 squared plus 80 squared is equal to, you guessed it, c squared. Okay, I've got 39 squared is 1,521 plus 80 squared, 6,400. That's equal to c squared. Combine those together, add those together, that gives me 7,921 is equal to c squared. Take the square root. C is equal to 89. Okay, this last one, I want you to set up. I want you to solve it. All right, so after you solved it, you should have gotten something like this. 20 squared plus 21 squared, good, 400, 441. Add those together, 841. Take the square root of both sides, and that leaves you with c is equal to 29. All right, so what you're going to do next is this next sheet, you are going to complete 1 through 9, and I want you to make a good attempt at letter B. Okay, so all of these 1 through 9 are just solving for the hypotenuse, just solving for that c. I do want you to complete on a separate sheet of paper and show your work, uploading all of your work with this.